Up in the next 1.5 hours, recent report by Mo Ibrahim Foundation reveals a significant decline of about 30% in the perceived impartiality of Ghana's judiciary between 2017 and 2023. Tonight, we'll digest the report, which also explores the gap between governance improvement and the perceptions of African citizens.
And Your Election Command Center and flag bearer of the MPP says from next year, Ghana Cocoa Board will pay the fees of all cocoa farmers' children going to the university for free. We have details of that here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7.
Much later on the program, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission demands apology from Ghana Health Service Workers Union concerning stalled negotiations over delay in financing the new collective agreement. Will engage the union for more.
And later on, we got straight over to the Upper East region where Boko Naba left ban on MPP. We have details on what's happening there here on Your Election Command Center. Plus, reactions also pouring in after yesterday's back and forth in Parliament. And Andy Apiakobi has been talking. We'll hear from him shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. And the flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has also spoken about the controversial statue of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, somewhere in the Western region. Stay with us.
For now, though, Sarfoa is here with a summary of the news. Sarfoa, what you have?
Thank you, Beatrice, and welcome to the news summary segment. Let's go to the details now. Flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, NPP, says from next year, Cocoa Board will pay the fees of all children of cocoa farmers who gain admission to the university. Addressing chiefs, clergy, and Muslim clerics at Odotobri constituency in the Amansie Central Assembly to mark this year's Farmers' Day celebrations, Dr. Mahmoud Baumi expressed confidence this will reduce burden on parents. To the next story, and Professor Kweku Asare has criticized the recent statue of President Akufo-Addo in Sekondi Takrady, arguing that statues for certain presidents are premature and can appear as politically motivated. He believes statues should honor only leaders who contribute or whose contributions have stood the test of time. Many locals have also questioned the need for the statue, citing regional infrastructural needs. In a major boost for healthcare in the Ashanti region, Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah has announced that the 250-bed Sevilla Regional Hospital is set to open following a power supply upgrade that resolves previous delays. Located in the Bosomtwe district, the long-awaited facility will soon begin operations, with commissioning expected before the end of 2024. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has called for an immediate apology and retraction of comments made by the Ghana Health Service Workers Union concerned stalled negotiations over the delay in finalizing the new collective agreement with health agencies and facilities under the Ministry of Health. And on to our last story, Kwame Owusu-Danso, running mate for Alantra Mantin's Movement for Change, has highlighted Ghana's severe housing deficit, blaming government inaction for worsening living conditions, especially for the youth. During a visit to Texpo community in Spintex, Danso expressed concern over residents forced to live in makeshift kiosks due to skyrocketing rent costs. He criticized both current and past administrations for failing to address affordable housing, which has led to near homelessness for many Ghanaians. And this brings us to the end of our news summary segment. And over to you, Beatrice and Alfred.
Thank you very much, Sarfoa Boahene. And let's start with the stories we have for you today. And a recent report by the Mo Ibrahim Foundation has revealed a significant decline of about 30% in the perceived impartiality of Ghana's judiciary between 2017 and 2023. In 2014, Ghanaians' confidence in the judiciary's impartiality was rated at 95.3 percentage points. However, the study finds that this has dropped to 68.3% by 2023, a 27 percentage point decline over the decade. The report indicator measures judicial impartiality based on factors such as the independence of the court, the autonomy of judges, and judicial appointments. improvements. The report also indicates that public confidence in the judiciary's adherence to due and fair process has eroded, with the score falling from 66.6 in 2014 to 45.7 in 2023. These findings come at a time when there is growing public distrust in the judiciary's impartiality or ability to be impartial in the administration of justice. Let me bring you some other aspects of this report as well. And data gaps remain prevalent in crucial governance challenges such as rural economy, health capacities, youth employment, and economic inequalities. And Alfred, I know that there is some more that this report is highlighting.
And indeed, rightly so. As we get into it, the data gaps remain prevalent in crucial governance challenges such as this rural economy, health capacities, youth employment, economic inequalities. But one of the most striking aspects of this report is the gap between governance improvements and the perceptions of Africa's citizens. Even as governments make advances in areas like infrastructure and economic opportunities, many people in Africa feel left behind, perceiving a lack of tangible improvements in their daily lives, or at least unmet expectations. Now, let's have a conversation on this quickly. Dr. Amakoba is a political analyst and is joining us on the telephone for a conversation on the details of this Mo Ibrahim governance survey. Dr. Amakoba, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And so with the conversations we've had on specific issues and instances that borders on the judiciary and governance in this country, hearing this recent report by Mo Ibrahim Foundation revealing a significant decline of about 30% in the perceived impartiality of Ghana's judiciary between 2017 and 2023 wouldn't come as a surprise to you, would it?
No, not at all. Not at all. What is happening in the country right now, the parliament on one side and the judiciary on the other side, come from the same source. The same source. The politicians have taken sides. This one for this one for that. And it doesn't work.
So the striking, analysis and outlier here, of which we see, is that the report also indicates that public confidence in the judiciary adherence to due and fair process has eroded, with this score falling from 66.6% in 2014 to as low as 45.7% in 2023. I mean, how does this strike you?
I'm not surprised because I may be a cynic, but I've seen the shenanigans, especially of the ruling government. You see, they loaded the courts. You don't do that. Muhammad's government, when it came, there were so many vacancies, but he left some, he filled some and left some. This one tried to fill every part so that the judiciary will be beholden to him. That's the idea. And so there is no semblance of justice at all. This is why the speaker made a ruling that whether it's right or wrong, that's besides the point. Instead of the majority leader engaging him, talk about the rules and come to a conclusion, he ran to the Supreme Court, and immediately the Supreme Court got involved, even though they had previously stated that they don't have any case in that. What is it? It means politics is driving justice. That's what's going on.
And if as concerning as this problem is, what should be the solution in addressing this declining confidence and trust in the impartiality of the judiciary?
That's a tough question. I bet if I had a solution to that, I'll be a rich man already. But I don't really see how we're going to do this thing, because it will take several sides. First of all, we don't understand our own constitution. We don't understand it, and it was not properly written. That's one point. Now, if you don't understand the constitution, this one says this one says that, how are we going to make it work? You talk to Ghanaians most of the time, they don't understand what is meant by trial restraint. They've never heard of it. This, they can hear law students know about these things in the States, and we don't know here. So that the Judicial Council can make a statement that if your test paper is graded, they will not let you see it so that you ask for remarking. Why? Is it your paper? Why not? And this is the decision that still stands today. And illegality, that is the problem.
To the extent that we've seen some consistency in this particular, the perception of the decline in confidence in the judiciary, because the Afrobarometer survey, for instance, also did capture a decline in the confidence and trust in the judiciary. The Global Info Analytics survey, the latest one, also revealed a decline in the confidence in the judiciary. And then we had a survey as well from the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, that ranked the judiciary not too appreciably high. And then also there was one from the NCC. All of these point to a particular direction. I mean, is it a time to start rethinking about the constitutional review, as has always been the case?
I have always advocated for rewriting the Constitution, a new one. So this one is no good. It is somebody else's Constitution. It was written in 1969 Constitution of Kenya. We copied it. And we did not engineer it properly to fit us. It is okay to take some constitutional ideas from somebody else. But you have to make it fit your own need. We didn't. We just copied it, and it doesn't work. That's what's going on. I can give you an example. How do you see that we copied it? Well, in the Constitution of Kenya in 1969, it talks about population quota. This is a specific idea. So if you read that and you go to look at another constitution and it's talking about the same thing, it's not an accident. This is not a common idea that happens to everyone. Then you see that one is written in 69, the other is written in 79 or something like that. That's the earlier one, the later one was copied from the earlier one. That's what it is. And that's exactly what I found. And yet, we have made an attempt to change things. There are so many mistakes in our Constitution, you'll be shocked. But educated people, like many of our citizens, who use this. Elementary ideas of parliamentarianism, we don't understand it.
Dr. Makuba, I appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Makuba is a political analyst joining us on this.
Let's stay on this and speak to lawyer Martin Pegbu. He's a private legal practitioner. He also joins us live on the line. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Mr. Pegbu. Can you hear us?
Yes, hi. Good evening.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And you're a friend of the court. Do you agree with the report regarding perceptions about the judiciary deteriorating from 2017 till now?
There's no way I can dispute it because this is a scientific survey. And the recent Supreme Court decision has not helped matters because it has fed right into this report. You see, and even before this recent Supreme Court decision, you saw the Jakpa case, what the Attorney General, Godfrey Dami, was doing to Jakpa, coaching him to go and lie to the court, etc. Right? So all of these have, and also, let me go back to the ACP Agojo case, where the Attorney General just added ACP Agojo because he thought that would make the case look great, you see, and added Colonel Gameli. So we can get examples that, even though those are individual examples, they typify what the report is talking about. So there is no way I can quarrel with the report because I don't have a credible alternative report to counteract this. So we'll go with the report.
And part of the reasons people believe that our system is deteriorating is because they feel that politics is overtaking justice. And I don't know whether you had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Richard Amakoba. He just said it, that politics is driving justice. And if you look at even the Afrobarometer coming from the CDD and other areas, they seem to give that same impression. Do you think that is the reason we are where we are?
Oh, but absolutely. This Supreme Court decision, I'm talking about the case of the vacation of 4 seats that the Speaker gave a ruling and the Supreme Court suspended the ruling or granted a stay of execution. Since it came, we've been making the same point that, especially the Supreme Court, is a political institution, it's a political organization, because you don't write an exam to go there. It's also neither is it an interview by an independent panel that is not in any way influenced by the president. No, if you look at the whole system, through the nomination, approval by judicial council, etc., you go through to the end, you see that it's the president who holds sway in the whole system. Even when it gets into parliament, in Manasseh's book, Joe Wise agreed that they are giving money in parliament to influence the decisions that they take, etc. So all throughout the system, you find the executive holding sway. So the judiciary can never be independent of the executive. That's how come we are saying that in that case, this constitutional review we are asking for, we should make sure that the president doesn't have those powers of appointing the supreme. The word I use appointing, but if you look in the constitution, they will say he nominated, and then or he nominates, and then parliament approves. So somebody will even say, finally the blame should be given to parliament because they are the ones who approve it, etc. Right?
But we also know that the Council of State somehow plays a role in all of these as well before even parliament comes in.
Yes, that's why I said, so when you go through the whole system, that's why I said, yes, I agree. Judicial Council, Council of State, then Parliament, etc. All those places, they are not independent of the president. Yes, so I agree. So that's how come we need constitutional review. And the Chief Justice supports the call for amendment. Yes, the Chief Justice supports it. During her vetting, she was asked about it, and she said she doesn't agree that the president should have any role in the discipline of judges, and also in terms of releasing money to the judiciary, that the executive usually sits on the money is not released on time, and it's a form of influencing the judiciary. So Chief Justice Tokore is done well. She's been bold and said it openly. So as for this constitutional review, as soon as a new president takes over, and I hope it won't be Bawumia, so that we can steer clear of the Kufuor 8 years of failure in governance, right? So that we will have the constitution review. It's overdue. It's overdue. And actually, if you watch it critically, the constitution is actually crippling our development. It's crippling our development because it is so weak that it has given all the powers to the executive. And when you get a bad leader, very bad leader like a Kufuor, the people will suffer because he is ruling badly with Bawumia, and so it affects all of that. So you see, and all of the problems can be traced in the constitution. You see, the framers should have known that, look, human beings are human beings. If you give too much power, it will lead to corruption. We don't seem to have learned too much from our past. Because if you look at this constitution, you're like, but we've had very bad leaders in the past. So why didn't we strengthen the constitution? But others will tell you that this constitution was done to appease Rawlings to agree for democratic rule, to take over.
But he served his term and he's gone, so...
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But also, I know some people have been denying this particular assertion. If Dr. Beatrice Adu hears us, he will ask a rejoinder that put him on to answer it that it's not true. But anyway, this is what I believe in. So once Rawlings is off the stage, let's quickly do the constitutional review. Remember, Kufuor agreed that, okay, we should choose a few. So we're going to do the election of MMDC. Then the people said they want it on non-partisan lines. Because Kufuor wanted it on partisan lines, and he cancelled the elections. And that was it in terms of constitutional review. So you see that for his 8 years in office, he scored -2 when it comes to governance. He's owing -2. It's not even a 0, -2. Because this is so elementary. Improving the governance system, improving checks and balances is so elementary. So it beggars believe that for all these 8 years, the Kufuor is not being interested. You remember how he sacked Domlevo right? And even when it comes to the current Auditor General who performed poorly, then he rather gave this one a contract. Demlevo, who was doing well, he refused to give Demlevo a contract.
Well, eventually the court ruled on how he should have been treated eventually, and he felt justified, as it were, or exonerated, as it were, after that incident. But I want to ask you this question, Mr. Pigbu, before you go. Of course, the Constitution allows the president to appoint judges. But if you look at this Mo Ibrahim report, it also talks about appointment to the court as one of the reasons confidence in the judiciary is declining. So where do you draw the line then? Because I don't think any president would want to appoint anybody that he doesn't have confidence in terms of, even if the person is objective, at least will be fair.
Yes, so that's why we're saying that in the amendment or review of the Constitution, the powers of the president to appoint or nominate, depending on which category of judges, will be taken away from him. We don't want it. So we'll give it to an independent body, a body that the president will not have any representatives on. Because now if you look at the Judicial Council, he also makes nominees. He has nominees from the council, etc. So in the new Constitution, it will be a truly independent body that should not have any nominees or appointees of the president on the council. Yes, and other safeguards that we put in.
Is there a way around this? Just my final question to you. How do we deal with the problem? Because if you look at this report, it's been going on from 2017 to be specific.
Yes, so that's why we said the amendment
aside from the amendment,
the surest way to go. Because there's no other, that's the first way, because we've seen that the law is bad. So once it's bad and politicians will exploit it, let's amend the law.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lawyer Martin Pigbu.
Lawyer Martin Pigbu will be joining us tomorrow on Key Point, which also is going to be live on 3FM 92.7 from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. also on TV3. But let's go away a bit from issues of politics and the matters happening in Parliament, because and now into matters of agriculture, but with a political promise. The flag bearer of the MPP is saying from next year, Ghana Cocoa Board will pay the fees of all the children of cocoa farmers getting into the university for free, addressing chiefs, clergy and Muslim clerics at the Odotobri constituency in the Mansia Central Assembly to mark this year's Farmers' Day celebration. Dr. Mahmoud Obamia said he's confident this will reduce the burden on parents.
I don't know. The Yemi Dennis to say, Ushe Kuku Equiafua first no na Cocoa Board, Emma Omoma scholarships, Omoko Senior High School, Cocoa Board scholarships, Cocoa Board, Emma Omo, Eco Senior High School. And then free SHS in Inti, Obiaba Eco Senior High School free. In Inti, Abain Afa, Adwinse, Sikana na yedi tuya koko equiafo omama fees no from next year koko equiafo omama Cocoa Board ebe tuya omu university fees free ama koko equiafo ma. So new policy ebe ma koko equiafo ma under Cocoa Board omu program ebe boa.
Well, that's Dr. Mahmoud Obamia there. But if you recall also that in March 2023, Cocoa Board rolled out what has stemmed the Cocoa Farmers Pension Scheme, targeting some 800,000 cocoa farmers. Now, farmers from 15 communities out of the 70 cocoa districts across the country have been captured by the Ghana Cocoa Management System, that's CMS, to start the phase 1 of the scheme. The requirements has it that there is no specific age entry, and it only requires a registered cocoa farmer with a cocoa card issued by Cocoa Board through the Cocoa CMS. Per the scheme, a registered farmer makes a mandatory contribution, 5% of his or her produce, while Cocoa Board pays a minimum top-up contribution of 1% of the farmer's produce on behalf of the farmer. Now, we shall get some answers to these nagging issues in a moment. Joining me on the telephone, Dr. Charles Nyaba, who's immediate past executive director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. He knows the agricultural sector quite well in this country. Dr. Nyaba, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred.
Now, prior to this promise that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia just made, there was the Cocoa Board scholarship. The level of abuse and misuse, to the extent that cocoa farmers' children who were the target of this Cocoa Board scholarship, a chunk of them were not benefiting from it. So Cocoa Board took that decision to, as it were, dissolve that scholarship scheme. Now we are hearing that there's going to be another scholarship scheme targeted at children of cocoa farmers getting into the university, and Cocoa Board will pay the university fees for free. How does this strike you?
Thank you, Alfred. Everybody will always like to hear sweet words like our Vice President is giving. But if you talk of promises that are given to the agriculture sector or promises that are given to the various sectors, I think farmers are the least in terms of people that they always promise them that they will do A, B, and C. And at the end of the day, either they do it and then it targets or it reaches the wrong hands, or they don't do it at all. I say this because we have a number of evidences from other promises that were made to farmers, and farmers became the victims rather. Now, you just mentioned one. When it came to the housing for cocoa farmers and scholarship for children of cocoa farmers, we did a research on it, interacted with most of our members who are actual workers for the owners of cocoa farms. And you realize that this list that were submitted, of which majority didn't benefit anyway, were rather few of them were owners of the cocoa farms. Majority were workers within Cocoa Board. But the real farmers who were actually doing the actual work were completely ignored. If you are familiar with the activities of cocoa or rubber, you realize that we have people who, the owners of the cocoa, usually contracted. They are the real people who do the work with their children on the farm. But the owners of those farms are either living in the cities or the capital towns. When it comes to that, they are those that are targeted. So for us, this promise that the Vice President is giving is not new, and it's not something that we are going to be excited about it, because in the past, similar promises were given and it never materialized. In any case, the Vice President is already the Vice President and it's in the ruling party. So if they actually mean well for farmers, why is he not doing it? But he is asking us to vote for him to come back and do it.
Well, so, he says if he does all the things now, what would he do when he comes to power as president?
But Alfred, what has he done? We and our members who are from the Vice President's hometown did a road march together with Nairi, his own chief. More than 1,000 farmers went out for that march. The Nairi gave a message. We came and met Bawumia in Plaster House. I was there. I met him face to face. We discussed everything, which has to do with the Polgo multi-purpose dam. In 2023, we got all manner of promises that they were going to ensure that he was going to ensure that in the 2024 budget that was going to be read by the end of 2023, there will be budget allocation for the Polgo multi-purpose dam. Since then, we've not heard anything. So how can I be convinced that if we vote for him now and he comes, this promise will materialize? So for us, it's not something which is new to us, and I cannot convince any farmer that if Bawumia comes, we will be able to hold him that why he said he will do it for them.
Well, in adding up to that, in fact, he was emphatic that they were going to ensure that farmers' children who get a university admission, in fact, they will have their fees paid for the 4 years, all for free, by the Cocoa Board, Ghana Cocoa Board. That's not convincing enough.
No, as I said, I don't think we are just out for free things. We have engaged the president on many occasions that many farmers are losing their farming activity, especially cocoa farmers, due to galamsey. And we provided a lot of evidences where farmers' farms were forcefully taken. The cocoa farms were cut down and the place used for mining activities. And we were pleading with him, pleading with the president, and now the president is doing it, to come out with methods so that they protect them. As we speak, there's no any promise in any of their manifesto what they will be doing to protect the livelihoods of farmers. But because it's cheap, they just say that, okay, when we come and do this, that one is easy for them. So for me, I just call this is a rent second strategy. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to do anything concrete that will support any children of cocoa farmers. Free scholarship go to any university. I don't believe it. And that when it even happens, I doubt it. If farmers, real farmers of cocoa, will be those who will be beneficiaries. It will end up with workers in cocoa board, within cocoa board, and then cocoa farms who do not actually live in the cocoa growing areas and they don't do any work in the cocoa.
Dr. Charles Nyaba, appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Great. Dr. Charles Nyaba is a former president, an immediate part president of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. But let's stay a bit further on this matter before we get into the Farmers' Day celebrations. Farmer Anthony Morrison is Executive Director of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Fred.
Now, hearing the Vice President make this promise, the flag bearer of the MPP make this promise that beginning next year, if voted into power, there's a policy to have Cocoa Board pay the full 4-year term fees of children of cocoa farmers. Does this excite you as one who is a major stakeholder in the agri space in this country?
Thank you very much, Alfred. Yes, this is a good news, but I will have to be quick to add that looking at the trajectory of Cocoa Board over the past 7 years, where they have declared losses, where currently as a country, the cocoa sector has virtually gone down on its knees. We know that a lot of cocoa farms that have been cut down, the cocoa trees that have been cut down in view of replanting and all the other agronomical support for these farmers has not been alluded to or has not been realized. So for us in the agriculture sector, we want to be very realistic. Cocoa farmers in Ghana have the worst economic conditions. Poor health situation, poor pension situation, and I don't think that this is a realistic promise. I don't think also that knowing the current level of production and the global demand for our cocoa beans, though it's a niche product, we are in the position to do so. Don't forget that the European Union have a law on the food of forest origin. Now, that's going to come in full force next year. And in view of the fact that we are unable to contain or put a stop to the galamsey issues, where mercury, cyanide, and other harmful chemicals are being released in the forest belt and into our water bodies, this is likely to have impact on cocoa exports going into next year. We need to be very professional and very technical with some of these things, because the impact and the number of cocoa farms that have been cut down so far as a result of the galamsey. Cocoa Board itself is projecting around 200,000 hectares of cocoa farms have been cut down because of the illegal mining. So I don't think that the Vice President actually understands the current situation within which Cocoa Board or the cocoa sector in the country operates. And we have to also be very mindful about the fact that the cocoa sector have one of the overage population. So it is also affecting cocoa production in the country. We also have to be mindful of the fact that we have a cocoa sector with a lot of diseases. And I know that was why we this whole project of cutting down overage cocoa trees and also disease trees. But where we are as a country, I don't think technically we are in the position to be able to cater for that. Don't forget, we have over 1 million cocoa farmers in the country. Assuming each of them have 2 or 3 kids, which is mostly the situation, I don't think that Cocoa Board will be in the position to do that.
Farmer Morrison, stay with us as we get into. Thank you for your initial thoughts on this matter. But there's a bigger question on the Farmers' Day celebration today and the policies as have been outlined.
Indeed, and the government today observed the 40th National Farmers' Day celebration. This year's event was brought forward from the first Friday in December due to the general election on Saturday, December 7. Now, this year's theme is Building Climate Resilient Agriculture for Sustainable Food Security. For the General Agricultural Workers Union, the government should focus on interventions that will minimize the impact of illegal mining, also called galamsey, on farmers and improve on livelihoods. Andrews Adu Tego is General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. He spoke to us earlier.
Galamsey menace and its effects on our farmers to have many implications for today and tomorrow. But in summary, the effects are devastating. For today, it's affecting the land, the productive land they are using for their agricultural business, and then also socially leaving chemicals that can affect the health of farmers too. In addition, so for example, all the water bodies that they will use to irrigate their lands have been polluted highly. So in that case, in their areas, they cannot do irrigation on their farms. What that means is that this year is on climate change. Our focus is on climate change. It's all about climate change. And then, like I said earlier on, it's about the weather patterns that we cannot predict. That is what we also rely on for our agricultural production.
And you heard that the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union of the TUC, Andrews Adu Tego. Well, Minister for Food and Agriculture, Brian Champon, says the government is implementing policies to improve agriculture in the country.
Is to produce enough to meet the demand. If we are producing, if the demand is not there, that is when the import will fill the gap. But if we are producing enough, there will be no need for imports. I mean, nobody is importing yam in this country because we produce enough yam into this country. Nobody is importing maize up until the dry spell because we produce enough maize. Nobody is importing soya because we produce enough soya. Okay, so if we produce enough chicken for the market, people will just not import chicken. It's a function of demand and supply. And when the demand is there and there's no supply, people will want to import to bridge the gap.
And that was the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Brian Champo. Let me bring you some more because Ghana's agriculture remains predominantly rain-fed. As of 2024, only 3% of cultivated land in Ghana is irrigated, despite the country having the potential to irrigate between 360,000 and 1.9 million hectares of land. And let's speak to Farmer Anthony Morrison, who is also the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber for Agribusiness Ghana and the chairman of the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Body of the TVET Commission. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And in the information we have is that Ghana's agricultural sector is struggling due to inadequate policies and programs. I'm just wondering how you've seen this affecting farmers overall.
Well, thank you. Policies are the infrastructures on which we drive as private sector players. And it's the same infrastructure on which the farmers and all other ecosystem players will react. So policies are actually the one that open up the industry with regards to indicators as to government priorities. As we stand as a country, we are currently running a policy called Investment in Food and Jobs, IFG, and which is a short to medium term agriculture sector policy which is derived from the CADEP, or let me say the long-term agriculture sector policy. Within that policy, you realize that it's been too fixated on food security. Now, for the past 7 years, we have been running a food security policy that does not cater for agro-industrialization. It's also not informed by market demand and market forces. And you realize that despite the fact that over 7 years we have put in until last week where 3.7 billion was released into the agriculture sector, between 2016 up to date, the PFJ, which is a Party for Food and Jobs, and its all derivatives, have only been supported with less than $5 billion. Now, you have to also compare that to the trajectory of food importation. Our food importation bill keeps going up. I heard the minister talking about we are not importing maize, we are not importing soya. The point is that the fact that we are not importing soya is also having adverse effects on the poultry sector, because the poultry sector requires a lot of soya cake or the soya meal, which is blended with the feed additives, which is a major component in the feed production. When it comes to maize, we import a lot of maize. Our national consumption for maize is 3.6 million metric tons. Our current production capacity is deficit close to 900,000 metric tons. That tells you that
per month or per year? Per month or per year?
Into the country, yes.
The figure you're mentioning, the 900 plus, is it per month or per year in terms of importation?
Per year. I'm talking about 3.6 million metric tons per annum. That is our national consumption, okay? And that number is deficit of 900,000 metric tons annually. If you look at rice, our national consumption is about 1.92 million metric tons. Meanwhile, we only produce just close to 1 million, okay? Also leaving about 900,000 metric tons in rice importation. We continue to import onion, tomatoes, fruit juice, chicken, frozen meat. We also continue to import fat and oil, okay? Oil importation is in billions, just like rice and frozen chicken. So
and sugar.
The numbers keep going up. And what we are saying is that we are not paying enough attention to the sectors that are able to change and transform.
So let's talk about...
Let me also be quick to add that the World Bank just released the Global Skills Index, and Ghana has performed well on that rating. That tells you that in the agriculture sector, I sit as the chairperson of the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills, which is a private sector body advising the government. What we see, I can tell you for a fact, our skills level to be able to transform the agriculture sector is very low.
It's very low, you say. But let me find out from you, though. I mean, in the midst of this, I know you mentioned the planting for food and jobs that perhaps might not have met the expectation of Ghanaians and people in the sector like yourself. But there was also the one district, one factory. How do you think we didn't do so much well with it that we're where we are? Because the purpose of that was to industrialize, as it were, agri sector.
The one district, one factory wasn't strategically implemented. I can tell you there are a lot of areas where we do have huge production, okay, where otherwise government have set up these factories and facilitated it with the private sector. I'll give you an example. The current minister is currently in the process of setting up a $70 million silo, okay, in Kwewu. Now, Kwewu and the whole of Afram Plains, he's doing 40,000 metric tons for rice and 20,000 metric tons for maize. If you look at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture facts and figures, the data in itself does not even speak to the fact that the Eastern region is the most strategic place to put a $70 million facility. And let me also add that that amount of money is just too above the required amount that could do, in fact, 70 million can do 10 times what we are currently projecting to do over there. I mean, speaking to the experts in the global silo industry, $20 million can easily do 70,000 metric tons of grains and cereal. Let me also add here that as a country, we haven't been able to incentivize youth in the country enough to see the agriculture as an attractive industry. We have currently sitting on our books 70% of the production forces in the agriculture sector over age. That is a national security issue, okay? So you realize that our production is not seeing the critical impact. For instance, our metric tons when it comes to maize and rice is nowhere compared to the South region. The South region are not, we are one of the lowest when it comes to the yield. So there is a need to give a lot of incentives to the youth. And let me also add that we need to protect our farmers. We need to make sure that year in, year out, we are tripling their income. That is the only way we can keep the best farmers in the industry. As of today, Ghana have lost more than 360 agro companies. Some have moved to Senegal, Ivory Coast, Nigeria. Some have collapsed as a result of government regulatory activities and policies that are not supporting the activities or the ease of doing business in Ghana, especially when the agriculture sector is concerned.
And you just answered my questions there. Thank you very much. We'll end it here. Farmer Anthony Morrison, he's also the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana and the Chairman of the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Body of the TVET Commission.
Well, so some other issues. The chief and people of Abosso in the Presiahone Valley municipality of the Western region have vowed to resist any attempt to sell the historic Abosso glass factory for scraps. Meanwhile, the CEO of Gihog Distilleries, Maxwell Kofijuma, who stands accused, says it is a requirement of the new investors. Rama Smith has more.
The Abosso Glass Factory, established by Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, in 1966, has been a significant employer and manufacturer in the Western region. However, its decline led to a takeover by Togo's then opposition leader Gilchrist Olympio, who renamed it Tropical Glass Factory. After being placed on a divestiture listing in 2003, Gihog Distilleries Company Limited took over in 2019 with the aim to rehabilitate and restart production to help reduce its reliance on imported glass and bottles and supply local production to Gihog's Lekobra. The community alleges that Link-In Bird's company is disregarding the agreed-upon implementation strategy.
And no more than or more bed jutra, no more the Akobazi, a ban you say, transformer now, a year humana generative power, Bibiano Crano.
Initially, we assumed they were removing only obsolete metals. However, our visit has exposed a disturbing reality. The functional transformer which generated power here has been drained of oil and is now slated for dismantling. A demand by some youth of Abosso for the workers to halt operations turned into an altercation. Meanwhile, the chief of Bogoso says they will collaborate with the MPs in the enclave to address the issue. The traditional stool is facing significant losses, prompting us to convene a meeting with ministers and members of parliament to address the issue. We urge them to renovate the factory, otherwise they will have to leave it. Additionally, we appeal to Maxwell Kofijuma to reconsider his proposal to sell the factory as scrap. In another development, the managing director of Gihog Distilleries Company Limited, Maxwell Kofijuma, in a telephone interview, indicates the current developments are in response to requests from the new investors.
We are demolishing some buildings. The contractor moving to sites, and he has directed that we clean the place. Contractor is a foreign company. Okay. We've directed that when they are doing the clean, they should not take anything out of the building. Okay. because the consulting architect has to inspect everything that is taken out.
He has urged the community to put their concerns in writing to the company.
Irama Smith there.
Let's go to the Upper East region, where we understand relative calm has returned to Boko in that region after weeks of violence following the resurgence of the chieftaincy conflict there. Peacekeeping forces made up of the police and military continue with intensified operations in the town to prevent an escalation of the resurgence, or a resurgence of the conflict. Now, trading activities in the town, which has had declined, are picking up and residents are going about their daily lives. The Boko Naba has lifted the ban it placed on the MPP and its campaign in the Kuso traditional area. And it's already a statement coming from the Kuso Traditional Council. I'll read that to you. And it says, following the smuggling in of the Mamprusi fugitive Sedu Abagri to Boko that resulted in the resurgence of the Boko conflict, the Kusok Traditional Council held a press conference on Monday, 28th October 2024 to make their stance known on the issue. Among others, the KTC was at pains to call on all people who are members of the MPP in all the 6 constituencies of Kusong to suspend all political activities until further notice. KTC also urged all our people in the 6 constituencies to distance themselves from Dr. Mahmoud Baumia and his political activities until further notice. This decision was taken based on the conviction by the KTC that the government, especially Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, who is a Mamprusi, is complicit in the illegalities perpetrated by the Mamprusis regarding the Boko chieftaincy. Even though we have not seen any concrete action by the government to arrest the fugitive Sedu Abagri, we have nonetheless decided to lift the suspension of the political activities of the MPP in all the 6 constituencies of Kuso. And there's more of this. You'll find that on srinews.com. But let's speak to our correspondent there who's been following this for us as well, Castro Senyala. He joins us live on the line. Castro, when we say that there is relative calm in Boko, what exactly does that mean, and how is that manifesting currently?
All right, Beatrice, yes, there's a level of calm in Boko as we speak. For the past few days, and witness of the violence that came with the resurgence of the conflict, and also it is observed that most people are beginning to come out to engage in business activities, trading activities, as well as go about their normal activities, which were not possible 3 weeks ago when the conflict, was at its apex in terms of the violence. Also, school children, nurses, workers who before then were not able to, go to work, are beginning to come out one after the other to go to work and to contribute to national development. And so if it is reported, or we are reporting that it's relatively calm, this is what we mean.
And are you able to tell us more about the lifting of the ban on activities of especially the governing New Patriotic Party?
Right, yes. Just as the statement from the Coastal Traditional Council, when the parole chief was brought into the area, that was what triggered the violence that we witnessed, and which security experts have described as the biggest explosion of the conflict ever. And since then, following that, the council, the Traditional Council, suspended every campaign activity of the New Patriotic Party and went on to even urge, subordinates or subjects of the Kusok traditional area not to engage in whatsoever campaigns of the MPP. And so it was something that came out as surprising, because if you look at what is happening, we have people also contesting the ticket of the MPP, and so there were concerns. But I think after some time, the minister, who is, a member of the MPP and that of the Upper East Regional, president of the chiefs here in the Upper East Region, House of Chiefs, had to intervene on behalf of the government and beg that they should allow at least for the campaigns to be able to go on so that their own who are part of the MPP can also go about their campaign activities. Following that, I think the National Council agreed and partially lifted that. When I say partial, I mean that they made a lot of other things that were bent on to push government to, sort of get the rival chief out. And so they are saying that they are only lifting and giving chance to the NPP to be able to campaign in the area, but all other restrictions, the restriction that no Mampusi leader should come to the Coastal Traditional Council, still hold.
Castro, briefly before you go, we understand there have been calls for security patrols and escorts, especially on major highways. Is this something you know will be paid attention to? What have you seen?
This is the concerns and, in fact, calls for increased patrols on highways arrived, and in fact, they've been the loudest. Because if you look at the attacks, most of them happen. The early ones, in fact, happen on the highways. And so concerns have been that security agencies, including the police and military, should up their game on those highways to avert the attacks. Recently, there were attacks on the Boku-Bolgatanga highway where someone was burnt to ashes. And so residents think that in as much as people are losing lives, it's also affecting trading activities. Innocent people who are not part of the conflict want to travel into the country and out, and sometimes travel through Boku to a neighboring Togo and Burkina Faso, but because of the insecurity situation, that is not possible. And so the calls were that the security agency should do that. Yes, I can report that there are sections of the highways, both Borga, Boku, Borga, Tamale, that are being manned by security agents, personnel 24/7, but Beatrice, a lot more needs to be done because in spite of that, there still are some attacks, and that is exactly what residents are so much concerned about.
Thank you very much, Castro Senyola. And Castro Senyola is our man in the Upper East region, bringing us an update of what's happening in Boko, in that region. You're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest in the world of business. Don't go away.
Today, we thank you very much for your invaluable service to this great company, and we wish you well on your retirement. Cheers.
Thank you.
Happy retirement, Lay.
Thank you very much.
So are you staying or you are going back to Ghana?
I'm going back home, of course.
Wow. You really built?
I've got a home at Lakeside Estate.
Really?
Lakeside Hills is a dream come true, a community designed for all stages of life. Whether you're a growing family needing more space, a young professional looking for convenience, or someone seeking a peaceful retirement, Lakeside Hills has it all. With 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes, there's something for everyone.
That's impressive. Exactly what I'm looking for. I have to start saving towards this.
See you back home.
Lakeside Hills, it's not just a place to live, it's a place to thrive.
The most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents in every nook and cranny across the country.
All the action, every incident reported.
All the big stories covered.
All facts cross-checked. Every figure verified.
Every vote monitored and accounted for.
The numbers tallied, analyzed, and interpreted.
We have invested time and energy in order to bring you a comprehensive elections coverage.
The whole world will be watching us on TV, online, and radio.
Election Command Center. Facts, analysis, results.
When it comes to the world of sports, what does complete mean to you?
When my team scores at the end of a 30-plus passing sequence, like Pep Guardiola style.
When someone beats the buzzer from a shot from the logo, like Steph Curry.
Dominating opponents and punching my way to a knockout, like Africa's greatest boxer, Azuma Nelson.
Running so fast that I can afford to celebrate midway through a 100-meter race and smash the world record like Usain Bolt.
Hold up. What makes all of these sports complete is the screen. This is where you get access to extensive analysis, insights, and highlights.
So join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. live on 3FM 92.7 as we serve you the most satisfying buffet in the world of sports. The 3 Sports team will come together to review, preview, and analyze the latest in sports on Sports Ultras.
Hello, good evening. It's time now for the business segment on Hot Edition. My name is Minu Afol, and coming up this evening, African governments urge to leverage youthful population to prevent unemployment crisis. We'll bring you details of this and more. Stay tuned. And now to the details. African governments have been urged to take advantage of the growing youthful population to avert a looming disaster resulting from unemployment. According to Gifty Boatima Anan, co-founder of West Lion Co. Africa's current demographic, if properly channeled, positions the continent to become the next powerhouse, much like China and India. She made this call during the 3rd edition of the annual Pan-African Conference hosted by her organization under the theme, From Aspirations to Action, Africa Youth at the Helm of Agenda 2026.
There are strength in numbers. Why is it that the world wants to do business with Africa? Because you're looking at the numbers in Africa. You're looking at China, that is almost like the population of Africa. Because of these numbers, they have an advantage. Ghana on its own is just a minute country. But then when you put these 55 countries together, we are a powerhouse. And the world would deal with us on that front. And so basically, the numbers we're looking at, if only we are able to channel it right, is 2 things. Opportunities await. However, disaster also looms. If we do not create the necessary environment to propel our young people forward, what is going to happen is that beyond even unemployment, there's going to be security issues. Because if people are unemployed, they resort to all kinds of things. People begin to steal, they begin to kill. Security is threatened, right? Then our young women will also be going into all kinds of promiscuous things. Health becomes a problem.
You heard co-founder of West Lion Co. Gifty Boatima Anan there. Meanwhile, speaking at the same events, advisor to the Rwanda High Commissioner to Ghana, Matthew Rahigi, urged Ghanaian youth to take up opportunities presented by the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Your role in this whole program.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Rahigi, and I'm the advisor to the High Commissioner of Rwanda to Ghana. Well, we are here because
these 2 interventions spanning
your role in this whole program.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Rahigi, and I'm
these young ones that are targeted today.
I think it's important to know something. If you don't know something, and I always emphasize this particular point, that the easiest way to not achieve something is to not aim for it. Now, as a continent, we have an objective, we have a target, and that target is embodied in Agenda 2063. Now, until we know what we are aiming for, we cannot do anything towards achieving it. So what West Lion and this particular Africa Youth Entrepreneurship Accelerator Summit is trying to achieve is to tell young people that as a continent, we have an objective. We have a target that we have set, and that target can only be achieved by us. And I think it's very important for me to just mention at that particular point that for an African entrepreneur, the only way you can scale your business is if you are able to trade across the continent, is if you are able to grow in Ghana and go to Cote d'Ivoire and go to Rwanda and go to Kenya and go to any other African country. And that's what Agenda 2063 is about. The flagship project of Agenda 2063 is the African Continental Free Trade Area. I don't know how many young people, for instance, have heard about that. I noticed from the room that majority haven't even heard about Agenda 2063 itself. So how will they know about the flagship project of an agenda they are not aware of? But today, more than 54 African countries have signed the agreement of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which was signed in Rwanda in 2018 by African heads of state. I think at the time there were 24, but now all African countries have signed the agenda, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. What does that mean? And I think almost 40-something of them have already ratified the agreement. That means that as an African young entrepreneur, you have the whole continent as your marketplace.
You heard co-founder of West Lion Co. Sorry about that. You heard advisor to the Rwanda High Commissioner to Ghana, Matthew Rahigi there. Now, over 1 million Ghanaians and local businesses have benefited from a 3-year pandemic management initiative through a public-private partnership between GIZ and 9 private sector organizations. The initiative sought to boost health among Ghanaians and organizations through 2 comprehensive pandemic management models. The following report has the rest of the story.
These 2 interventions, spanning 7 regions across Ghana, aimed to equip participants with vital knowledge and skills to manage the impacts of pandemics in their professional, personal, and family lives. Dr. Holger Till is team lead for the Develop PPP Ghana project at GIZ.
We have seen that there are pandemic plans are prepared on company level, but also on institutional level from the government. And we have seen it during Corona. And we should not think another pandemic will not come, because the time after a pandemic is already the time before the next pandemic. So therefore, this should be really taken very seriously.
Director of the Africa Center for GeoHealth at the University of Ghana, Professor Julius Fobo, urged corporate entities to seek support on pandemic management.
We are also still available to give them the needed technical support that will start them off. In case any pandemic erupts, that's totally different from the previous or the ones that they know about.
The 2 pandemic management projects were funded through the Develop PPP program on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development and the GIZ in collaboration with 9 private partners.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report ending the business segment on Hot Edition. For more stories, kindly log on to our website. It's www.3news.com. My name is Minu Afo. Please stay tuned. Sports News is up next.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the VFM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen. Now on to our first story. Asante Kotoko are going into the weekend against Bechem United without their striker Albert Amwa, who is one of the top goal scorers of the Ghana Premier League so far with 5 goals in 9 matches. Now Albert was injured during that game against Pando Heart of Lions, where Asante Kotoko lost by 1-0 at the Linkley Sports Stadium. And currently Kotoko are scrambling for a replacement for him. Now here's a report looking at the kind of impact Amwa's absence would have on Kotoko and the possible solutions for the club. Asante Kotoko are in big trouble. After losing 2 straight matches in the Ghana Premier League, the Kumasi Bay side have seemingly lost the man that has arguably kept their title hopes alive so far, Albert Amwa. The striker joined the Porcupines after Great Olympics were relegated to the Division 1 League, and in the space of about 2 months has become almost indispensable to the side, scoring 5 of the side's 8 goals this season. This, in mathematical terms, amounts to 62.5% of the team's goals. But with his availability in question due to injury, Kotoko have to make adjustments.
I can report to you that Albert Amwa looks likely to miss the next 3 to 4 games of Asante Kotoko. That means he's likely to be out for at least a month. And I can tell you that from the training that was conducted, Prosperity Ogum is likely to use Elvis J. Balfour or Dawuda Saka as the leading striker. Those are the 2 options for Coach Prosperity Ogum. So we expect that when Kotoko plays Bechem United on Sunday at the Namfusuji Abor Park, it is one of Elvis J. Balfour or Dawuda Saka who will lead the lines for Asante Kotoko.
With a 22-year-old out for possibly a month, Kotoko could miss his services in the Super Clash against Hearts of Oak in December. In essence, the club is currently without a pure goal scorer available after Uwebi Agub, the other finisher from Sudan, alongside his countryman Esmat Mohamed, are yet to be found after reaching USA. The club is getting closer to finding a solution though, with a familiar face from the past currently in camp.
Former player Kwame Poku, who scored some 8 goals in the first round, was transferred under former CEO of the club, Nana Amposa. And then they also have Isaac Minta, former player of the Ghana Stars, who has been training with them for the past 2 weeks. So Kwame Poku started training this week, and Isaac Minta has been training for the last 2 weeks. We understand that there is a special dispensation where Asante Kotoko can register a player who is a free agent and was not in the country as at the time the transfer window was closing. So that is something that management is also doing to try to, as it were, mitigate this problem.
Kotoko will travel to Bechem United next. Prosper Ogum will be forced to try something different and would hope to get positive results. Will he survive the hardships without his clinical talisman? That was a report there highlighting Kotoko's scrambling for a new striker after Albert Amwa was taken off due to injury. Now here are the fixtures in the Ghana Premier League for match week 10. Hearts of Oak will be playing against Vision FC starting at 7 p.m. tonight. On Saturday we have Dreams FC versus Midiama. On Sunday we have Young Apostles versus BBN Gold Stars, Nations FC versus Nsuatreman, Bechem United versus Asante Kotoko, Holy Stars versus Accra Lions, Samatex versus Legon Cities, Heart of Lions versus Brekum Chelsea, and Adriana versus Karela United. And the standings, we have BBN Gold Stars right on top with 19 points, Nations FC second with 16, Asante Kotoko third with 15, and Mediama fourth with 15 as well. Hearts of Oak are currently 8th on the table with 12 points. Now at the bottom we have Accra Lions, who are 16th with 8 points, Legon City 17th with 8 points, and Dreams FC right at the bottom with just 5 points earned so far in the Ghana Premier League. Of course, there will be more updates on the Ghana Premier League on GPL Express, which airs on Saturday at 2 p.m. on TV3. So do make time to watch all the updates on the Ghana Premier League. Now, moving on to Europe, Manchester United, Ruud van Nistelrooy has stated that he's looking to possibly be the Manchester United coach in the future when asked about it ahead of his final game as caretaker manager for Manchester United. He's already managed the team for 3 games as a caretaker, winning 2 and drawing 1, but after Sunday, Ruben Amorim will take over as the new head coach of the club. And here's Ruud van Nistelrooy talking about his future with Manchester United.
Yeah, of course, I thought this through well when I made the decision to come to United as an assistant manager or assistant coach. I thought that through, and I knew that coming to Manchester United was for me a special occasion where I felt I want to be part of this journey with the club. In also an assistant role. I had clear ambitions to manage. I made the decision to sign a 2-year deal as an assistant, and I'm still in that frame of mind, to be fair, to stay in that capacity.
That was Ruud van Nistelrooy there talking for Manchester United ahead of his final game as caretaker manager of the side. Also, the biggest clash in the Premier League this weekend is between Arsenal and Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and Mikel Arteta is looking to break that poor run of form in recent games with a possible victory against Chelsea, and he's been speaking to the press ahead of this big clash.
Well, obviously, when you don't win, affects the mood, affects the energy. But the positive thing that there is nobody impossible in this room or outside that wants to win more than I do, and that these guys in the dressing room wants to do. It is impossible. So that desire today, I had a meeting with them about it, and I can sense it straight away. And what I sense as well is a big belief that how good we are as a team. And again, what we did in Milan, watching it back twice, I haven't seen my team doing that against them, but you need to take that into a winning football match, because at the end is the only thing that anybody is going to judge, know how superior you were to the opponent, you outrun the opponent, you outperform the opponent in every single way. It's about, did you score a goal? You didn't. We have a problem.
On the other side is Chelsea, who are going into this game with confidence after defeating Noah at the Europa Conference League by 8-0. Maresca has been speaking ahead of the upcoming game against Arsenal.
We're always looking for something different, no matter if it's Arsenal or another team, to see how we can attack and defend in the right way. We did this season against any team, for sure Arsenal. I said in this moment is the closest one to the best team in England, that is City. But we're going to try to do our game and prepare in the best way we can and try to win.
That was Enzo Maresca, the head coach of Chelsea. Here are the fixtures in the Premier League for this weekend. Brentford versus Bournemouth. We have Crystal Palace versus Fulham. West Ham United versus Everton. Wolves versus Southampton. Brighton versus Manchester City. Liverpool versus Aston Villa. Manchester United versus Leicester City. Nottingham Forest versus Newcastle. Tottenham versus Ipswich Town. And Chelsea versus Arsenal. Bringing an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Ishen. We have the rest of the team on standby with a lot more on Hot Edition.
And thank you very much, Bill Ishan, for bringing us the latest in sports. Opposition NDC and the flag bearer of the party, John Mahama, has slammed President Akufo-Addo for what he describes as self-glorification after the president unveiled a statue of himself in the Western region. John Mahama posits that President Akufo-Addo should demonstrate humility and allow others to praise him for his achievements rather than seeking personal gratification. Well, the president is under heavy criticism after he unveiled a statue of himself in the Western region. Just listen to what the former president, John Mahama, said.
As submission. Ewie nsɔhwɛ sɔmehwɛ na ewie yɛ ne nsɔhwɛ ɛno na Akufo-Addo ba mepa mo atwa mo nsɔmehwɛ ɛno ne yɛ nsɔhwɛ ɛnɛ ezu na ɔne ɔse ɔfa ho ɛno na ɔkɔ ɔtakrade na ano wɔde ne statue akosi hɔ ɔno akɔpa ho ntoma what be that ezu I was say on my penny bia unya hobrase. Nipa ne was on mobo abaso. No more come for. And ya wan kasa no akoya statue. Now they abesi ho. No one kasa wako. Mumbo some mami. No akopa huntuma. What to be that? Ezu no ako university bia yema o doctor. Abra odasu yo man penyo. Anka odi ewie na ko nom kasa oh. Ye chewe juma o ya DSA. Enti ye pese wo ba Nebo Abaso, Nema honorary doctorate. University of Ghana, Henyina, with Chimo Monsa, Moama Mano, doctor, Nunto Minim, baby, order ho. Ezu, Eza, Enti, Ajena San, Bibia Mbeka Hobium, no Mubaya, no Mayano. And so be say, Maba in a wasso, also Maba Erbano. Ebese sanya mabanya ye na abaye aban foforo na maye masesa maban eden ensembasabasani.
Had the former president John Mahama criticizing Nana Akufo-Addo, the current president of the country, for unveiling a statue for himself in the Western region. We go to the camp of Movement for Change and running mates to Alan Kwadwo Chairman Ting's Movement for Change ticket in the 2024 general election. Kwame Owusu-Danso has decried the devastating effect of the housing deficit in Ghana, which he says has exacerbated the living conditions of Ghanaians, especially the youth, leaving them on the brink of homelessness and causing them to resort to kiosks for shelter. Listen to him speak earlier.
Ghana, your affordable housing. Ghana sika any EDS. Ghana sika na EDS no. You see the Ghana for. Adentina ya politics masisiano. Edanu si obi antim NSA. Meanwhile, Ghana for no and I was say omunya baby tano. Omo te kioso. Kioso no so no ye tu omo. It's a he fan na pese Ghana nia or no tini crew no. Say wadani akwa e woni crew. Eti way e niema uru ala chamatin ba ye babeye. Ye babeye housing policy. So housing policy no, you have a issue of rent. Thank you. Rent no the edikan. So mubasha emrane say I can rent here. I can 6 months. Thank you. It is 6 months no. We work makakra na wutia, busimi bia na wetia, busimi bia na wetia. And so no, if you run for no, almost 2 years rent advance. Now say 2 years rent advance no. After you young boy and I say young girl, what's that here brabono? And he found out to go says he cannot. And they have about 2 years rent. It is a Ghana no yen.
And you heard the vice presidential candidate for the Movement for Change, Kwame Owusu-Danso, and he was speaking when he visited a Texpo community in Spintex along Sakomono Road for an engagement with residents. And in Samri Ntwi, he was saying that Ghanaians are living like slaves in their own country, and that the housing sector is a problem when or if Movement for Change is elected into office. The party would look, or the government will look into the housing sector, especially rents in the country. And let's bring you some more on the flag bearer of the Convention People's Party. Nana Akosua Frimpoma Sapon Kuma says her party's three-tier policies can address the nation's current economic challenges and create lasting solutions. Listen to her speak at Okra in the Eastern region. Not there. All right, and we'll have to bring you that later. And in Sunyani, the Bono regional capital, a significant number of residents have made the decision to abstain from voting in the upcoming election, while others have indicated that they will cast their ballot based on certain conditions. The reasons behind the decision to abstain from voting vary among residents. Some cite a lack of faith in the current political system and a belief that their vote will not make any difference anyway. On the other hand, there are residents who have decided to vote, but with specific conditions.
This year, I don't. It's not in my plans for now. I'm not seeing anything different from the first, because I've been voting for over 20. Is it 20 or 16 years? I'm not seeing a difference. When they come, the politician, when they say what they want. I think they need your vote. After you vote, that is all. And I'm not seeing a difference. I just want to relax and do my work.
Because I feel that my because my name is Kora, and what the two crap of over there, you to the Sibena, bro. I know them, I'm not them, papa. Nasha, I balance of coin, put 3 pa chamine. It's a original grass, open cow crabba. I'm a groom crana, Eddie. I thought of a mudma from Yakapa.
And you heard there some voters in the Bono regional capital, Sunyani. The last person speaking, talking about bad roads and how difficult it is to get transportation to work. And that's it for Campaign Trail on Hot Edition on Shri FM 92.7. And that's it for Hot Edition on Shri FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you so much for joining us today. Log on to shrinews.com for more news. Have a good evening and do enjoy the rest of our programs.